We're back. It's React Europe 2019. Jared Palmer and Maël Nison, project lead of Yarn, one of the coolest projects in the open source community, and I'm a huge lover and big fan. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for speeding up, for just saving the universe time and energy, because it is such a phenomenal tool. So thank you. Do you want to tell us about what's going on with Yarn and what's new? There's a lot of changes.
So a lot of this was in the talk.
Yeah, I'll just give.
Basically, the big idea was that since Yarn is now 3 years old, we figured that it was the right time to try to stabilize our foundation in order to build more in the future. So that's why we decided to come to the V2 and re-architecture Yarn to make it easier to work with the features that we already have and make it easier for us later to build new ones on top of what we have.
So let's back up. What is Yarn and what is Yarn going to be? Because it's changed, right? So just bare bones, what is Yarn for those who aren't aware?
So Yarn right now is a package manager. It was built because there was NPM, but it was complex to use. And we decided to try something with different trade-offs, I mentioned. And one of the things that we did was the system of log file. Then we came up with the workspaces based on the implementation in Learner project. Then we came up with plug and play, and now we are going to build zip loading. Yarn is a package manager. It is meant to make it easy for you to build a project in such a way that it can be installed anywhere. Every package that you have will be downloaded and stored locally. You can deploy your application anywhere you like. That's what Yarn is. As for what it is currently becoming, I think it less than a package manager, Yarn is becoming more of a package manager platform. Our goal is to make it possible to support more than just JavaScript package, because I'm a JavaScript developer, but before that I was not writing JavaScript only. And I think it's important to remember that we are developers before being JavaScript developers. So something that I really wanted to make happen is to open the way for Yarn to support other languages, so that one day we can install a project that contains dependencies from various different languages.
That'd be awesome.
So that's the...
And it'd be, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. All these other packages are going to go through the same exact issues you are.
Exactly.
Or very similar ones, right?
For example, the workspaces are a very generic solution to a problem that a lot of different languages have. So if we can provide the workspace implementation so that the developers of those, the maintainers of those languages can focus on what is unique to their platform. So for example, in the case of Node, it would be the Node modules or the PNP implementation. For the case of Python, it would be this virtualenv generation. For the case of C++, it would be generating a CMake list.
Right.
If we can let them focus on that and Yarn handle all the feature and developer experience, then I think we'll have something that will be beneficial to the development ecosystem at large, and not only for JavaScript.
And with those tools, if they do build on top of or the platform, would you still be using the Yarn CLI, or would you also have their own CLIs? Like, how would it sort of interop?
Yarn 2 will support a plugin system, meaning that you just have to run a command to download a plugin from their location, usually on GitHub. So the idea would be that you just run a command and your local Yarn gets support for C++, for Python, for whatever you want.
I mean, that's awesome. One less thing to have to remember. So how did you get involved with the project?
So I joined the JavaScript Foundation team at Facebook right after I joined, actually. And it was funny because one of the reasons I joined Facebook was because they had started Yarn, so I knew that it was a great company to go to for everything JavaScript related.
Right.
But I never anticipated that I would actually get to work on it. So just after I joined, I started to make a few comments, and over the year I felt more and more confident about the architecture, about my knowledge of how to implement features. Yeah, I guess that's the story of
So Yarn was amazing because it was so fast, or is so fast, right? It's just faster than a lot of other implementations. How fast can it get?
So that's something very interesting, because I think when Yarn got released, it was so much faster than what existed, right? But speed is not the only metric by which a project should try to improve. It's only one of them. I think speed is just a marker of the developer experience. So for example, what I mentioned, zero install, means that whatever the time is to run yarn install, it doesn't matter if you don't have to run yarn install anymore.
Right. You could, if you could eliminate it with like PNP,
Exactly.
right, like, then you don't need to, then it's, nothing's faster than instant.
Exactly. That's what we are trying to achieve. So at the moment, yarn 2 is slower than yarn 1 because we need to convert the archive fetch from NPM from TGZ to zip, which has an overhead. But since you don't have to run yarn install anymore, in the end, it's really balanced. The only time you have is the time it takes to clone a repository.
So so in yarn 2, the first time when an empty, like let's call it a container in your CI or something, the first time it runs, if there's no cache, it's going to take a little bit longer. But
Exactly.
Next build will be instant.
The cold install is slower, but there is almost no cold install anymore.
So that's going to shave minutes off the entire ecosystem's
That's the goal.
development experience, saving, boosting
Especially
productivity.
on a CI, since they just have to clone the repository, which can be cached, which can be even faster to set up. You don't need to run the special install step on Travis. You don't need to set up your cache so that your non-modules is cached and then you copy it. You don't have to do a lot of steps that you had to do until now.
How will it work with like symlinks, and has that all been sorted out too? I know that's still a pretty big pain point for some folks, like just linking and symlink. I don't know.
Thanks to PNP, we don't actually have to use symlinks in most cases. So in most cases, Yarn can just tell Node that such package is located in this directory, and Node can load it from there. We still need to create a few symlinks for portability reason when a package has pure dependencies. But overall, it's a very small, and no more symlinks. Actually, it allows us to do something that is quite interesting. We have this new feature in the V2, which is called portals. Portals are a bit like the link protocol, which is that you can point to one of your dependencies to point to a different project on your disk, except that the portals are able to correctly understand the dependency tree of the project that you're linking to on the disk. Which means that, for example, let's say you have a project foo that depends on a project bar on the same computer. If bar has dependencies, they will be correctly imported within the dependency tree of foo, which is very important, especially if bar has peer dependencies on packages that foo emits. That was a long-standing problem. When you link a package, how do you make sure that the linked package will get the peer dependencies from the original one? And it wasn't possible before PNP, but now that Yarn has the full knowledge of the dependency tree, we can do things like this.
That has cost me and my entire team many, many hours. So I'm glad you're working on that. That's pretty cool. So what's like Yarn look like in 3 years or 4 years? Like what is the next generation after this platform play?
I think the main change will start to be how many languages can we support? Can we fulfill the vision I exposed where Yarn will be able to install dependencies for various languages? One in particular I have in mind maybe WebAssembly. It's still an emerging platform, but that's something that is very interesting to me. Right now, the JavaScript packages, there are a few of them that have build scripts and make everything much more complicated because then you need to build the scripts locally, so you cannot cache them, and you need to rebuild them each time one of their transitive dependency changes. But with WebAssembly, we have a chance of being able to just compile the packages once before publishing, put this on the registry, and then download them when we need.
And then potentially the browsers could do that for you. It sounds like a beautiful future. Well, thanks so much for coming. How can people follow you and get involved with the Yarn project?
So as for myself, I'm on Twitter through the Arcanis handle. We are often on Discord, Yarn PKG organization. And the V2 work is on the Yarn PKG organization on GitHub, except that we are not on the Yarn repository, we are on the Berry repository.
Right, they changed the name of it, right?
No, we didn't change the name. Berry is just the code name for the V2 trunk. Since it's a very different architecture, we decided to use a different name so that we can correctly reference one or the other depending on the circumstances.
Makes sense. You guys are so smart. Well, thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll have one or two more of these. Thanks for listening, and thanks for tuning in.